full-on millennial pausing there.
I know, yeah. Hello.
That's what we just did. Hello, everybody. Yes, we are live. Live on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
At a time when YouTube never expects me to be live. I am joined by Adam.
Hello.
Chad Stewart is here. Oi, oi. Hello, Pustle Nick.
Hello. Oi, oi.
Adam is here. So he's not going to be saying hello in chat.
No.
And yeah, we're just doing a very kind of brief, I guess, top 10 things about 10th edition that we've picked out. Having just finished playing a game.
Yes.
Of Warhammer 40,000, which I can't show you yet.
No.
But I will. Tell us how we can use bony matter in 10th. You can use bony matter to do whatever, whenever, and however you like.
Hey, there's someone from Mexico in the chat.
Hello, Eber. I hope I said that right.
Yeah.
I might not have said that right. Hello to you from the UK. You are also great.
Yeah. Hola.
Hola, indeed. So yes, we're here. We have Leviathan. We have the book.
Look at it.
It's a mighty tome.
It is a mighty tome, yes.
392 pages, I believe.
Yes.
Which kind of feels like they should have stuck an extra 8 in there.
Just to get the 400, yeah.
Yes. Although it does say 330 on the back.
Yes.
But that's because there's 72 pages of core rules in here.
Mm.
Which changes how the book is kind of... the layout of the book. So the book has what you would expect normally. It has a pile of lore and stuff and background and painted miniatures and all that kind of stuff in the first, 200 pages.
Yeah.
Something like that. No, Leagues of Votan.
Tau.
Core rules, that's where they start. So the first... no page numbers on that one. Good lord. No page numbers on that one. I think they just give up on page numbers.
Yeah, they just stop.
Okay. Well, the first 200 pages of it are thing, and then it kind of resets to page 1 for core rules.
Yeah.
Because the core rules are written in such a way where it goes on page 3 of the core rules, rather than it being on page 316 of the core rules. Because that would be what the page number technically is on the core rules, but it's not. It's basically not laid out stupid.
No, yeah. And there's been people online who've kind of been... I don't know if they've just not read. There's a little guide in the front of the core rules that tells you how this works. And people seem to be very confused about it. But it's actually really sensible, right? Because it means that 72 page of core rules can go into any other book. Yes. And you know that when it says refer to page 15 of the core rules, you are referring to page 15 of the core rules. You're not referring, as Josh says, to page 78 of whatever book it's in.
Yeah.
Which is really good, because it means they can be updated kind of independent of whatever they're in, which is really nice.
Yeah. There's 59 pages of core rules.
59, not 72.
Because there's helpfully the contents, which is probably where I should have just started this whole endeavour. The GW has transcended page numbering. They very much have.
We have risen above it.
In a good way, though.
Yes.
So yeah, pages 199. The first 199 pages of this are all about the background and the hobby, the Dark Imperium, the forces of the 41st millennium. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. That's pretty neat. I'm a big fan of that. So, Adam, go on then. Hit me. Top 10 changes.
Well, should we start from the obvious, the big one, army building?
Yeah, is that where you want to start?
Well, I think we start with army building, because it's where you start, right? It's where you... So, one of the things that we've seen that's been a constant throughout 8th and 9th, certainly the last 2 editions, is this concept of having to build armies around a particular detachment, right? So you build a patrol, you build a battalion, and then you get benefits or perhaps penalties for doing so, right? So you have to take troops, you have to take certain types of units. That's all gone. That's all gone completely.
Not quite.
Well, the detachment system as we know it has gone, I would argue.
Detachment system is gone, but mandatory picks haven't.
Mandatory picks haven't gone, no. So
there's only one you have to make.
Yes, which makes things nice simple.
One character.
One.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
You're probably going to want 3 or 4.
Yeah. as we discovered in the game.
Yes.
But yeah, so the way it works now, you just need a character. You can have up to 3 of the same data sheet of anything else, or up to 6 if it has the battle line keyword. So, you know, your basic troops in many cases, although it depends on what your index says. And then you can only have 1 of the epic heroes of each epic hero in the army, effectively. So you can't have like 2 Guillimans or 2 Lions, obviously. So those are the only limitations you have, which makes life really straightforward. So if you want to run a very thematic force, you can do so. This also bleeds over into some of the other stuff they've previewed around, like demons, for example, being able to be put in as allies into armies. So you don't, you know, classically, and I mean, you run straight demons, right? Like with a plain demon army rather than as allies. But people would always be kind of hamstrung by the fact, oh, it has to be a patrol, right? Like if I was running World Eaters, I wanted to take some Khorne demons, I had to bring some bloodletters to sort of walk around the field with them.
Well, and you had to have at least one character and one troops unit, because you had to take the patrol in order to fit it into an Arcs of Omen detachment. I think Arcs of Omen is, for anybody who played it, is quite familiar. But now, in a kind of shocking turn of results, there's no longer any kinds of elites, fast attack, heavy support, any of that kind of thing. So it's just a case of, what do you want? Yeah, you can have it. Exactly. Which may present some problems further down the road.
Well, we'll see. We
shall find out.
But in theory, it offers you a really fun way to build an army as you want to do it, right? And not be restricted by a lot of the things that we've seen as common restrictions in the past. It's probably also worth saying that should we move on to, I guess, number 2, which I think is linked to this.
We can do. I want to just say thank you to Mark for being a member for 22 months.
What a legend!
Serious long time friend of the channel. Thank you very much, Mark. It's very, very kind of you. And afternoon to you as well.
Yes, afternoon.
Hope you're having a great Sunday.
Yeah, lovely outside. And
a perfect Sunday, no less.
Yeah.
What's your perfect Sunday?
Oh God, I don't know.
Is it playing Game 4 and Game 5 of a tournament?
4, 5, and 6, and then sitting there at the end going, "Why? Please kill me."
4, 5, and 6.
We did that once, didn't we?
We did one.
We did one.
We did one 6-game tournament. Do you know what I think? Fascinatingly, I don't know at this point, but like Index Hammer tournaments, if there's any coming up in the next sort of 8 weeks or so, 8 to 10 weeks, I honestly couldn't call it based on what we've had previewed of the armies. We obviously don't know. I'd say 98% of Warhammer 40,000 what the future of that looks like, but if there's like, let's say there's like a tournament in like August, it's going to be really interesting to see what those armies look like. Yeah,
because it's almost unbound, right? In many ways, apart from your character limit. There's just
my perfect Sunday is GW announcing a momentary lapse of reason and letting my dreads back into 40k. Not hopeful.
I hear Forge
World. Your Forge World.
Yeah.
You can still use them in your match play games, just not at a tournament.
Yes.
But I would expect smaller RTTs to probably just say it's
House
fine.
It, yeah.
I would expect that.
Yeah. But you can see why they did it though, right? I mean, look, you and I were having a conversation the other day about you'd go to a tournament and you'd see an army that was, what was the example, with Slanesh, wasn't it, or Slanesh demons, and it wasn't. Yeah. It was 3 Volkite contemptors.
Yeah.
And a load of demonettes.
Yes, and I think the thing with it is as well is there is such a large amount of Horus Heresy stuff coming that I think people get excited about very Horus Heresy units making their way into 40k. So stuff like the Kratos, for example. It's not a 40k unit, it's a 30k tank. It's brand new in 30k, which means it technically they all died in the Horus Heresy, which is why we've not, which is why we haven't heard of them before. But I can use a bath brush in my match play games. You could try. Is the regular Contemptor profile still usable? The one from the main codex with a melter assault cannon? Yes. Yeah, I'm pretty certain that that's still in there. And to be honest, you can proxy things like a Leviathan Dreadnought. All of its... We don't know what the Brutalis's options will be, but I would guess that there might be a multi-part Brutalis kit, which will come with a different option other than the las cannon, because that's what we've had before.
You mean the not Brutalis?
The Ballistus.
Ballistus. Yeah.
The Ballistus. We don't know what that has, but Leviathan with 2 siege claws perfectly proxies as a Brutalis. Dreadnought.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean you can proxy them, and I think they said on the preview that things like Venerables would still be around.
Yeah.
So you could run Dreadnoughts as just a different one. It's the same base size. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If Venerable Dreadnoughts still have as varied a loadout as they do now, because they can take anything. I think Venerable Dreadnoughts you can give 2 guns, 2 claws, 1 claw, 1 gun, blah blah blah. That's your Contemptor right there.
Yeah. Problem solved.
Pretty cool. You should be able to, Melter and Melee Contemptor. I'm pretty certain that it will still be there because the normal Contemptor features in the Custodes.
Yeah,
and it's like what they call Cataphractii and Tartaros Terminators.
Relic Terminators.
Yeah, because they're in the 9th book, the 9th edition Codex. So I would guess that they will be in the 10th one as well.
I wouldn't. Basically, I think the answer is, Chad, I wouldn't fret. Obviously, I've got Leviathans. I think they're really cool. There's a beautiful example of one down there actually for 30k that you painted.
Yes.
And they're a really cool dreadnought. So I can see why, especially if people have bought the brand new plastic kit specifically for 40k, and they did say, and they were right at the time, they did say this could be used in 40k, and they've now said it sort of can't for tournaments. Although again you can use it for match play, but I wouldn't fret. Worst comes to worst, proxy it. You'll probably see it get house ruled. And look, it's a great model. I'm sure you'll find ways to use it.
Yeah. I'm pretty certain. I just bought Dreadnought
Pod.
Has that one been confirmed as not being?
Yeah, I don't know.
Not being allowed. I don't know why it's so determined to focus on you.
Focus on me, not you. Yeah.
You're my camera. I bought you and look after you.
I've developed powers like what's his name? The guy who wants to be the 5th Chaos God. I control your machinery.
Malal.
No, not Malal. The other one, the new one, from who went and messed with the Dark Angels.
The Great Horned Rat.
Yeah, all right. Let's go with that. I can't remember his name.
Vashtor. He's a butt.
He is
all right, let's move on then. That's number one.
That's number one.
So list building.
Yeah, so and we should say linked. This is kind of linked to that, but it's also an important change, which is relics and warlord traits. They don't exist anymore, at least not in the form, again, that we're used to them. So, one of the big criticisms that we saw in 8th and 9th edition, or one of the things people, I think we talked about it on the podcast, we talked about it in videos, it's one of the things we always see is you had like 1 million relics and warlord traits, and you'd end up in this situation where you'd just be spending CP, so you go, oh, I've got 3 characters that have warlord traits, and then this sergeant has a relic, that teleports him around the battlefield. Hello, Warp Strike. Hello, Barbican's Key in Astra Militarum. Yeah, all of that is gone. That's all in the bin. The way it works now is your enhancements can only be taken on a character, so no more of the whole sergeants getting relics, for example, or warlord traits. Obviously, characters can be attached to units, as we've already said. So you can still have enhanced characters in a unit, and maybe I don't think we've seen any, but maybe there will be enhancements that affect units, presumably in the future. But you have a much more limited selection to choose from. They only work on characters, and as a general thing throughout 10th, we're just seeing less wild amounts of variety that you never use. Yeah. And there are upsides and downsides to that. I think some people might say, well, it was nice to have a lot of different choices, but the running joke certainly that we've had on the podcast and we've sort of had amongst our friendship group is, the relic pistols. How many times did you see someone take a relic pistol?
I took them all the time, but I had a demon's army,
and every book had a relic pistol in it.
We didn't get one in the demons.
I did suggest we should do a relic pistol off. We should have a model, give it a relic pistol, and see who's got the best relic pistol. If you'd like to see that, let us know.
Well, we can do that, but it's 10th edition now.
Yeah, it's 10th edition. So that'd be our goodbye to 9th.
No. The Leviathan box is here.
I know.
I have the core rulebook in my hands. That means 9th for me goes in the dumpster fire, and I never look at it again.
Yeah, yeah.
I would. Do you know what? I would go back to play 8th. I would go back to play 8th. I wouldn't go back to play 9th
No,
because I don't like it. I don't like secondaries.
no, that's fair.
I don't like faction specific secondaries where by sheer dint of picking an army you are at a disadvantage to your opponent.
Yeah, because you don't have access to their secondaries. Yeah,
You don't have access to their secondaries and you have access to yours. So in an edition that cares not for morale, and then demons got
morale. I feel like
morale
there's
based.
demon criticism here.
Well, it's not. It's
No, you were
the
right.
classic example, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, like with the sisters, for example, they don't have cool secondaries that are like, if you kill something with a flamer or a melter, then you gain 1 point. No, they have stand behind this building and you'll score 8
Bless
points.
the objective. Yeah, like the Necron ones as well that they had that were auto scoring for a while.
Yeah, you didn't move into this table corner this turn.
15 points Necrons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't like versions of 40k where the army plays in a way that it wouldn't realistically. Let's just do this at the same time, Adam. Realistically operate. So, like, one of the things I didn't like in 8th edition, for example, was playing ITC version of the game where you selected your secondaries based on a very specific thing that you wanted to do. So, like, the one was like, one is fine, the Reaper, which was kill 20 models.
Yeah.
You as an army want to kill your opponent, so it makes sense. But gangbusters
Oh yeah, Gangbusters was weird.
kill something that has kill a infantry unit that has 3 or more wounds,
yeah.
and if you kill 3 of them, you score a point. So I'm only going to target aggressors, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's like that's not how an army works. Or like you must control the objective in your opponent's deployment zone, and it's like, okay.
Delightful.
I mean, I know I'm going forward, but my objective isn't to just sacrifice myself.
No, that's true. That's true.
So I don't like things where it's like, especially in 9th edition, where you do have those ones of hunker down behind this building and not
just,
interact with
just
the
stay
game.
there, yeah.
I don't like it because it's like, if you think then, if you're adding a narrative layer to it, if you're playing Chaos versus Sisters of Battle aren't just going to hide in a bunker.
No, they're going to want to go kill the Chaos.
They want to go and kill the impure Chaos. They're not just going to go, well, it's fine because
we blessed this.
We've blessed that paving stone. And as long as we're within 3 inches of it, we'll be fine.
I think you'll find the Public Works Department of the Adeptus Sororitas is very keen on their blessed paving stones.
Well, maybe they are, but that's more the Adeptus Mechanicus' purpose.
That is probably, yes, yeah.
Or the Adeptus Ministorum.
Yeah. The Ecclesiarchy. Well, that is Ministorum is the Ecclesiarchy. You're thinking Munitorum.
Munitorum or the Ministratum. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Go on then.
Dive in the law.
So what was it? What were we talking about?
Enhancements.
We were talking about enhancements.
Yeah. So the smaller selection, but they all look like so. The game we played, we had a look at our enhancements that were available to us. Again, very limited selection between them, but all of them were good, and you can take up to 3 in an army. So again, you can have 3 characters with 3 enhancements, and you'll get those throughout the game.
Which is why you'll want to take 3 characters.
Which is why you want to take 3 characters.
It might be that your enhancements aren't maybe good enough for certain characters.
Yeah.
But that's where, like, I think the interesting thing for people who have 9th edition collections, so not so much for people who are joining in 10th,
yeah,
but for people who've got 9th edition and 8th edition collections, people like myself and yourself,
yeah,
who have hundreds and hundreds of models, it now means that Enhancement 3 is really cool on Unit A because they can attach to Battle Line Unit 3.
Yeah.
And then it creates a really interesting combo.
Yeah.
So you have like scenarios where there are not really auto take characters because they interact with this enhancement, and that therefore makes the efficiency of the character greater. It's the efficiency of the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Which makes it even better.
Definitely, yeah.
Some of course are to improve the character itself.
Yeah.
But my kind of thinking and looking at it is that you might get something that's like, I don't know, the raiment of shiny bald man.
Ding!
Yeah.
It's one for you, Reza, who's in the chat.
Yeah. Reza's shining raiment. should we call it?
Yeah, Res Shining Grey.
Which might be like a thing, an enhancement for Grey Knights, let's say. And it might be like, it'll be something like this character, whilst leading a unit, add 2 to torrent weapons.
Yeah.
So now, you might think, let's take the brother captain?
Yeah.
In normal armor, power armor, not the Terminator armor.
Not Terminator one.
But you might take the normal like power armored Grey Knight character with Rez's raiment and attach him to some purifiers, because it's enough to push the purifiers right up. Because when was the last time you saw purifiers?
Not for a very long time, to be fair.
I would say you've probably never seen purifiers.
No, probably not actually.
Yeah. Yeah, because Crow,
Stellan Crow, yeah.
he's in charge of the purifiers.
Yes, he is, isn't he?
But
That's
you
his
don't
thing.
see many people take many purifiers with him.
No.
Because the ones that you've seen in 9th edition and 8th edition, to be fair, are interceptors.
Yes, because they jump around.
Because they jump around.
Which the whole Grey Knights do now.
Yeah. So these enhancements are cool because, of course, you get 3 per army. In 2,000 points.
Yes, yeah.
2,000 point game, you get 3. So 3 characters can just take an enhancement. So this is where the kind of big brain changing
Yeah.
becomes even cooler, right? So and there's tons and tons and tons and tons of different options here, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, we can talk about the Space Marine indexes.
Yeah, we can do, yeah.
So if you've got it there.
I have it, yeah. I have the Space Marine Index.
So like the Space Marine indexes as a thing, we can talk about if we look at the enhancements, which Adam's just pulling up for us now.
Space Marine Index is quite big, so just give me a second to find it. Here we go, yeah.
There you go. So
there's your enhancements there.
What's the bolter drill one?
So you have I think that's Bolter Discipline. So Bolter Discipline is Adeptus Astartes model only, while the bearer is leading a unit, so it enhances the unit. Ranged weapons equipped by models in that unit have the Sustained Hits 1 ability. In addition, while the bearer's unit is under the effects of the Devastator Doctrine, each time a model in that unit makes a ranged attack, a successful unmodified hit roll of 5+, scores a critical hit.
Yes.
So it's very good.
Yeah. So there you go. That's how you start kind of coming up with crazy combinations.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't know everything yet, but we will. So, enhancements, that was
enhancements, yeah. So I think it's worth talking about because, again, Warlord traits and relics stacking up was one of the things that caused, I think, problems in 9th edition. Because
and 8th.
And 8th, yeah, exactly.
Because you had... Hero Hammer's not a problem. Hero Hammer's great.
No, Hero Hammer's fun.
Hero Hammer's awesome. But, let's talk about the big offender in Hero Hammer. The Blood Angels... Smash Captain.
Yeah.
With the Angel's Wing.
Yes.
So, no Overwatch re-rolling charges.
Yes.
And
he's got
the
a Thunder Hammer
of Baal.
Yeah.
Not Artisan of War. No, that was the other one.
That was the other one, yeah.
But Hammer of Baal. Artisan of War was the... Yeah, it was Artisan of War. Because that was the Warlord trait.
Yes, that was the Warlord trait, and then you use the Angel's Wing as your
relic, yeah. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So enhancements...
That's gone. Yeah. So nice and easy. It is worth saying that, obviously, enhancements can't be taken on your, named character epic heroes, so... You can't have it.
That's not a change, though.
Not a change, but it's just worth emphasising in case there is any.
Top 10 things that stay the same.
Top 10 things that stay the same.
Regardless
you
of
roll dice.
Regardless of what edition you play of whatever game.
So, to move on then,
yes,
it's probably worth talking about another thing that affects, I guess, you starting up the game when you're getting ready to play, which is about the battlefield itself, and specifically how terrain works and how cover work, because that has changed, and that's changed, I think we found, for the better. It was a lot more straightforward in terms of how it all works.
It is a lot more straightforward. It's less... What's the right word here?
I don't know.
Because so the point is that keywords on terrain is a great idea in principle because it means those effects, because they're keyworded, apply at all times.
Yeah.
That has changed.
Yes.
So we're no longer keyworded, are we?
No. So just what it says, in 9th in particular, they tried to get away. They being GW tried to get away from what we saw in 8th, And yes,
I did a
he did.
FQ. Here's the core rules. The box is in two halves. One's in the shed and one's out here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
here is a termagant I painted last night in 45 minutes.
Less than that. Like, it's impressive how quickly you did it. I sat here while you did it. They're so good. As someone who has termagants, the new sculpts are so good. No, so they tried to get away from the kind of planet bowling ball thing we saw in 8th, which obviously made shooting armies super strong, by giving, as Josh says, keywords to terrain. So, you know, they had a sort of bunch of stacks of keywords, and things could get quite confusing to work out exactly what happened. You often ended up with like really weird rulings on stuff at times, where some tournaments would be like, oh yes, no, the whole bottom floor, regardless of whether they're windows, is blocks line of sight. You know, there would be different interpretations of how this worked, which often got quite confusing for people playing the game. The way they've done it now is they've literally just done it by what the terrain actually is. So there are essentially a bunch of named categories of terrain, and for each one, it tells you very clearly in the core rulebook, Josh has got it open here, whether and how it affects movement, if at all, how it affects your visibility, so models in it, models next to it, etc., and then whether it gives you the benefit of cover, which is the new sort of single rule that determines whether you get, you know, what we would call a cover save, I guess, traditionally. Yeah. And then otherwise, whether there are any other additional bits that apply, because obviously certain different types of terrain have certain other things that are relevant for them. And those categories are craters and rubble, barricades and fuel pipes, battlefield debris and statuary, hills, industrial structures, sealed buildings and armoured containers, woods and ruins.
Yes.
So there's 6 of them, basically, which makes it really easy to just go, that's that, and that on the battlefield.
And those do still have keywords, but they have maximum of 2 each. So it's no longer heavy cover, light cover, dense cover, obscuring, breachable, scalable, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's no longer like 7 per piece of terrain on the battlefield. You know, only have 2 keywords, and I suspect that they're in there just in case of narrative supplements or ways to play the game or specific rules in the future that may be very specifically. Let's say you have, like, I don't know, they release a new faction of guys who really love pollution. So not the Death Guard. No. But guys who really love to pollute, who have inferno, flamers. Let's say there's a new flamer-obsessed army that likes to burn down trees. Yeah. They might get +1 against units hiding in keywords woods. Yeah. But otherwise, you get like area terrain woods, area terrain ruins, area terrain crater, obstacle barricade, obstacle battlefield debris, keywords hill. So that's me.
Yeah, that is your keyword, hill.
You can use me as terrain. And if ever you get any rules that are specifically to target hills, you can get +1 to wound against me. Yeah. And I think, again, a big change here that we're going to see is when it comes to tournament play. Because fundamentally that's the lens through which we will judge stuff, really. Yeah. I think you're going to see a greater variation of things. Yeah, definitely. Because all of these, so craters and rubbles, battlefield debris and statuary, hills, industrial structures, sealed buildings and armoured containers, and barricades and fuel pipes, they are all kind of your basic terrain. Whereas, and they don't give you anything in addition. No. Whereas Ruins does. Ruins gives you plunging fire, which is what we've seen previewed. Yes. But I don't have to worry about that because I can show you the core rulebooks. But Ruins, plunging fire giving you an additional AP. Yeah. So now there's like, I think Josh is fundamentally right, because what we always see at tournaments is like, oh yeah, I've got 4 ruins, and is there any dense, like, you know, back in 9th keyword, is there any dense terrain? Oh, maybe there's some dense terrain, but like nobody really cared about it. It was always just a bunch of ruins facing each other. Yeah. Now stuff like your little pipes and your craters, they actually do some things, so you will see more variety of them. They matter on the battlefield, and there is a reason,
You know, ninth did have rules that benefited you if you were like behind a barricade, for example, but you just never saw it used at tournaments. Generally, I think I'm right in saying that.
Yeah.
Now there's a good reason to do it because actually there is more benefit in doing it. There's more benefit in kind of being strategic with your movement behind pipes rather than just going, I'm going to run from ruin A to ruin B to ruin C, you know, like that.
Yeah, I do love that if you have a sealed building, regardless of what size it is still a hill.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a hill.
That's what they call me.
The sealed building.
I am the sealed building. I shall leak nothing.
Yeah.
Next
one?
Terrain. Terrain's good. Terrain's simple now.
Yeah, terrain's simple.
It's got that classic simplicity of 8th with a little bit more complexity of 9th, but not so much.
Yeah. And we should say as well, benefit of cover, which has been previewed, but we'll just emphasise it again. Benefit of cover is really simple. It's +1 to your save.
Unless you have a 3+ save.
3+ save.
In which case, AP 0 does not give you +1 to your save.
So no more Marines with 2-up saves hiding in a building or in some ruins and going, oh, you can't.
Or standing on top of a hill.
Or standing on top of a hill.
Because Marines frequently want to stand on top of me for +1 to their save.
Yes, yeah. So really good change overall. And again, we found that in our game that was pretty useful. We had a couple of those rules interactions come up, which was good.
Yeah, I think so. There's the criticism of it in our game is that because line of sight is so much more dependent now. You do have a slight return to the old classic argument.
Yeah.
Of you can't see me.
Yeah.
Yes, I can see your hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is fine because that's accounted for in the book. It's not like you have to. It's not like 7th edition where you had to be able to see more than 33% of the model.
Oh god, I can imagine the arguments over that.
I think it was 33%. Rich will correct me immediately if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
If he can even remember that from the 7th edition, because as we discovered the last time we spoke, Rich, I remembered more about 7th than you did.
Well, Rich said when we did the last episode of the pod actually that he rightly deletes the previous edition from his mind because otherwise he just gets clogged up.
I will never forget what concussion does, even though I never used it on the tabletop.
Do you know what this is a really good segue actually into our next one if you want to move on.
Yes, I'd like to move on.
Which is the return of the Jedi. No, the return of Universal Special Rules, or USRs.
Yeah.
Which is a thing that existed previously in editions and does exist in the Horus Heresy, and now we are getting a version of it back in 10th edition 40k. And I think where this has a real advantage, and again we talked about this while we were playing, is it stops the problem or the issue, minor though it was, that you'd always get in 9th edition, where you'd have 10 versions of different names of the same ability. So like, for example, Warp Strike or Teleport Strike.
Yeah.
Well, they're both a version of what we would colloquially call Deep Strike, and, spoiler, what is called Deep Strike in 10th edition. But, because it had slightly different names, it meant that if Games Workshop modified the way that sort of rule worked in principle, then it didn't apply across all the armies. So you'd get these weird variations. And I think the other place we saw this, which we'll talk about a bit more later, was like fight first, fight last rules.
Yeah.
Because there were all different abilities on different armies' data sheets that had variations of names. That's all gone now. There's a series of universal special rules, and they do different things. Sometimes they are unit abilities, sometimes or model abilities, sometimes they are weapon abilities, like a whole bunch of those. But they are a way of just being able to grasp the same set of rules across different armies really quickly. And again, we had this come up in our game where we'd say my weapon does this, this, and this. Josh or I, depending on who's doing it, knows instantly who is what is happening, which is good. It makes life a lot easier, I think. So yeah, universal special rules are back. Really nice.
Yeah, I think it's a big change, but not so much for your competitive player, because your competitive player was already translating the game into USRs anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
So
feel no pain.
Feel no pain. Exploding sixes.
Yeah.
Etc. 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 It's a holdover from 7th. And people have been doing it throughout the whole thing. For example, I played a game where I said I'm going to use from golden light they come.
Right.
And my opponent was like, "What does that do?" And I explained it.
Yeah.
It's deep strike.
Deep strike.
No, so it's deep strike. I was like, that's not a rule. Because it wasn't.
No,
Deep strike
right,
was not a rule.
Yeah.
The rule was from golden light they come.
Yeah.
because I was proving a point.
You decided to be pedantic to prove a point, but you were right.
Is it pedantry when it's the actual rule?
It's accuracy.
It's accuracy,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what I'm known for around here. Highlights and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Precision is the key, and precision is also one of the universal special rules.
What's the
That's
quote
cool.
from Suits? The law is a precise.
The law is a precise endeavour, so we must be precise with our answers or something.
There you
something
go.
like that. Why you get me to quote Suits on the stream?
Because it's exactly what your life is.
Oh, it's not. You and Joe.
And Rez now.
And Rez, yeah.
And Alice.
Yeah. My
And
life
I'm,
is
and
not
I'm going to
like
get
Suits.
everybody over here to just refer to you as Harvey or Mike.
Okay.
Not Harvey or Mike. Just be like, all right, Harvey or Mike.
Brilliant. Thank you. I appreciate that. Cheers, everyone. Yeah. So I think to move on to the next one.
Sue.
To keep it moving on to the next one, we should talk about critical roles.
Yeah, because I think that one's come up. That one's come up as a point of confusion.
Yes, because it interacts with USRs as well.
Chad, if you're still here, I think you had a point of confusion about this. A critical hit and a critical wound is just the roll of a 6.
Yeah.
That's all it is. So it's just another. It's just translating what a roll of a 6 is into a universal special rule.
Yeah.
So critical hit, critical wound, a critical save might be a thing,
I think we've seen that, but
but it might come up.
in theory, a roll of a 6 is a critical.
Yeah.
Is the basic rule of this, right?
Yeah.
Now, where this gets a little bit more complicated, but is worth talking about with USRs,
Yeah.
is that there are certain abilities, certain USRs, that do things on what is effectively a critical roll. So we've already talked about one, which you mentioned earlier, about sustained hits, right? So sustained hits is what you would call, in regular tournament parlance, exploding 6s, right? So you would have a thing on the gun or on your weapon. It would say sustained hits, keyword, and then a number. Let's say that's 2. Sustained hits 2, right? What that means is, on a critical hit roll of a 6, you get your explosion, and you get it to the value that's in the sustained hits.
Yeah.
So in that case, if I roll a hit roll and it's a 6, I get 2 additional hits because I have got sustained hits 2. Right?
Yeah.
Make sense? Does that make sense, people in
Yeah,
chat?
it's like a new shorthand.
Yes.
Because when if you're thinking like you're having to explain a rule to your opponent, we all do kind of tournament shorthand. We all do shorthand whenever we're playing games. But we'll say, I get exploding 6s. Someone might not know what that means. They might think that means your dice will literally explode if you roll a 6.
Yes.
And thus damage their models.
Boom.
So the actual ruling of exploding 6s is on an unmodified hit roll of a 6, score 1 additional hit.
Yeah.
That's the full rule.
Yeah.
Rule, and you should say that out loud. But you tournament shorthand it into we do exploding 6s, and people know what that means. In this version, it's basically a new shorthand using keywords. That are official.
Yeah.
Because exploding 6s means different things to different armies at different times on different units.
Yeah.
So, yeah. A critical hit is an unmodified hit roll of a 6.
Yeah, exactly.
A critical wound is an unmodified wound roll of a 6.
Yeah, so Chad said that in the chat.
Yeah.
That's right. And John, the John T, to answer your question in terms of its sustained hits 2, in the example I gave, it would just be 2 additional hits. So you don't roll 2 dice again. Your 1 hit becomes in effect 3. The original 1 plus 2.
Yeah.
Now, where this also keys off is there are other abilities that give you, things on the wound roll. So the example that we saw come up in our game a few times, and an example that I think you will see across different armies because it's been previewed on quite a few data sheets, is something called Devastating Wounds. So Devastating Wounds is a weapon ability, a universal special rule that says on an unmodified wound roll of a 6, a critical wound, you take the damage of the weapon and it turns into mortal wounds.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to then be making sure that when you're, if you're rolling your wound roll, if you get 6s, you've got devastating wounds. Remember that becomes mortal wounds. So it sort of changes the way it works. You know, obviously your opponent might not get a save against that.
Yeah.
To add a layer onto it, and where again this starts to sort of stack up, and where I think people have looked at 10th and heard simplified, not simple, and gone, oh, you know, the edition's going to be too simple. It isn't. You still have to do a fair bit of thinking. It's just easier now to kind of work out how things.
It's
interact.
instead of, Chad.
Oh, it's Chad. Yes.
Yeah. So if it's a damage 2 weapon with devastating wounds, it does 2 mortal wounds. You don't.
Yeah, it just the damage becomes mortal wounds. You don't get in addition. Certainly not that we've seen so far in anything. Where this again gets a bit complicated is what you might have is you'll see there's another universal special, another weapon ability called anti, right? So it'll be anti dash a keyword and then a value, a sort of number and a plus, right? What that means is that weapon on whatever the number is given in the name of it will count that wound roll as a critical, as a 6, against whatever the keyword included in the name is. So to cut through all that, for example, if I have a weapon that is anti-vehicle 2+, that means on my wound roll, if I'm targeting a model or a unit with the vehicle keyword, my 2+ counts. If I wound you with a 2-up, it counts as a 6. It counts as a critical wound. Yeah. So where that becomes important is, because that's become a 6, if that weapon had anti-vehicle 2+ and devastating wounds, not only do I wound you on a 2+, because it becomes a 6, my damage becomes mortal wounds, right? Yeah. So do you see how this stacks up, right? I mean, I'm even having to think through as I explain it.
Well, so this is what I mean. So it becomes tournament shorthand, right? So what you would previously have on a weapon is you would have the weapon on the stat sheet. Yeah. So it would be called, let's say, bolt rifle. It would say this is a strength 4, AP nothing, damage 1, and then on the right hand corner it had the notes column.
Yeah. You'd have to read the notes.
Write everything out in full detail. Instead, now it's just devastating wounds and lethal hits, let's say. Yeah. So this is nice because that then means that you've got one point of contact to go to, the core book.
The core book, yeah.
To go and look for your rules. It also means that you understand what your opponent's rules are and you understand what your rules are, because whilst you might have something like, let's say, the old Kassakin combo, which, you know, is a case of playing a bunch of stratagems, but you now key off mortal wounds on 6s, but it now becomes 5s and 6s, unmodified 5s and 6s because of other stratagems and stuff like that. It's easy to lose your opponent in the steps for rules. Yeah. So in order to do that Kassakin thing, you have to have Kassakin. You have to know that they're called. It has to be the hot shot las guns, or the hot shot volley gun, or the hot shot pistol, or the hot shot marksman rifle. Yeah. It has to be a hot shot weapon, and then it also has to. You then have to play 2 stratagems to do it.
Yes.
2 stratagems have different wording to other things in the rest of the edition, because they then have to FAQ in because it's too strong to a maximum of 6 mortal wounds.
Yeah. It gets complicated, basically.
It gets complicated because in 9th edition, every book was its own island. Now everything is connected by a loose thing that isn't just the core rules. It's also the core universal special rules. And it does mean that once you've played 5 games, maybe 10, if someone says to you, what does this weapon do? Oh, it's got devastating wounds. You'll know what that means. And I would encourage everybody to try and use the USR, Universal Special Rules, names for things. So instead of saying, oh, it's got exploding 6s, it's got sustained wounds.
Yeah.
Or instead of saying, oh, it does mortal wounds on 6s, it's got devastating wounds.
Yeah.
Because it will help you learn it, and it will help your opponent learn it. Which you might not want to help them learn it, but, you know.
Be nice. Be nice to your opponent. It's a collaborative game.
Really, be nice whilst rolling dice.
Yeah, be nice whilst rolling dice,
and I think the other thing to bear in mind is that whilst it might look on the face of it that a weapon may have gotten better or worse, generally worse. I think this is what I'm making the point for. People will say this weapon is worse than it was before. If you're not taking into account the USRs on it,
you're not thinking it through.
You're not thinking of it properly.
Yeah.
So, like, you might have a pistol that used to be strength 10.
Yeah.
Because it's like Lord Solar Leontis's pistol.
With his...
Yeah, so I think it was like strength 8.
Yeah, it was like a really, really powerful pistol.
Surprisingly powerful pistol. So strength 8 minus a lot, damage flat, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That pistol might now be like strength 4, but it might say anti-vehicle 2+.
Yeah.
Which now means it's good at shooting at vehicles, less good at shooting at infantry, which is kind of what you want. Which is where we go back to our previous point about army construction, in that it's very important that you build your armies to take all comers when fighting something that you don't know what you're going to fight.
Yes.
If you do know what you're going to fight, then tailor away.
Tailor it. No, don't tailor. So I mean that, and you know what? I think Reza asked the question earlier. He said how hard or easy was the game to pick up, and we can talk about this just throughout the stream. But like that was one thing that we found as well, was like working out. You know, I'd say we're both pretty experienced players of the game, right? And yet actually going through and being like, okay, my weapon has, you know, devastating wounds and sustained hits 1, and I get it, and trying to think about kind of layering those up as to how it works. That did take a bit of getting used to, but I think you're right. Yeah. After like three or 4 or 5 games, you should be pretty familiar with what everything does. And I think the other thing as well is we will start to see archetypes of how things are, you know, how weapons work across different armies, because they are quite common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chad's asked, anti-X equals auto-crit when targeting X.
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
But only on wounds.
Yes.
I haven't really seen anything that's like auto-hit on
no, we haven't seen
better than a critical hit.
No, I don't think we have. Yeah, I don't think we've seen any unmodified like.
I can't think
hits.
of anything.
No.
You get anti-infantry, for example, but that's to wound. Anti-monster, anti-flyer, anti-vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if there's any anti-beast out there.
Anti-beast, anti-swarm.
Anti-swarm. Yeah, there might be those types of things. They might be out there.
So it all keys off the keywords, right? So it's just about knowing what and that was one thing that came when we were playing the game, is looking at the index cards and going, oh, what keywords has my thing got?
Yeah.
Whether there's any interaction there. It's quite cool. So, I mean, Mr. Watkins says the Psychophage has anti-Psyker 2+. Yes.
I didn't say Psycho, that was one.
Yeah, anti-Psyker. Yeah, that's another one. But bad time for Grey Knights and T-Suns players if you have a lot of anti-Psyker in your army.
Well, you just kill the... See, I think Grey Knights will probably do quite well into Tyranids, because Grey Knights should have a bunch of anti-monster stuff.
You would think so.
Because they fight demons.
Demons, yeah.
And demons definitely have monsters.
Definitely have a lot of monsters.
They have at least 5 I can think of.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think Chad's right. He says he likes the USR stuff. I think we like the USR stuff, don't we?
I like them. It is a return to a classic. And as far as I can tell, there aren't any throwaway USRs that you'll forget.
No.
So there aren't like effects that do weird stuff. The effects are pretty normal. So to go back to 7th edition, concussion. If a unit took a wound but wasn't dead.
Yeah.
If a model took a wound that wasn't dead from a concussion weapon, it was now at initiative step 1, which meant that it would fight in the last phase of the fight phase. Which is a long way round.
Yeah, a long way of getting there, right?
But it very rarely ever comes up, because most thing died when you hit it with a thunderhammer.
Yeah. So yeah, I think they offer a way to kind of cut through stuff, and Chad, you're right in chat what you say about exploding sixes meaning different things. It just means you have a single kind of route through that you and your opponent know. It'll take some time to learn, as we say, but I think you'll get there. And the big list, I mean, looking through the core rulebook, is probably in the weapon abilities section.
Yeah, weapon abilities. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Now that sounds like a big list, but some of them are very familiar. So like Melter.
Yeah.
Melter X means you do this extra damage if you're within half range of a melter. So firing a melter weapon is familiar. It still happens with you're in half range of the melter. It's just changed in that it's not really changed.
No, it's not really changed. No, it's just
thingy.
it's clarified it nice and simply in a universal special rule package. And there are others. I mean, the weapon abilities is probably the biggest section, but Deep Strike is a USR.
So that was the weapon abilities.
Yeah.
In terms of like other universal special rules, I don't know where the page is.
They're sort of scattered through the core rulebook, aren't they? In sort of
they are, but then they're collated as well.
Oh, they're collated.
Yeah.
There you go. Fights first as an example.
Yeah. Fights first is one.
Yeah, fights first. Stealth is another.
Deep Strike, Scouts, Infiltrators, and Leader.
Yeah, that's another example.
So the Scout rule is the same as it always was. It used to always write out that you have this unit can make a scout move of up to 6 inches before the game begins on every single thing, but it was different variations for different units. So some units would be like make a scout move up to and including your normal move in advance. Sometimes it was very much hard limited on how much you could go, and other times it was just very weird. Scouts is now Scouts X inches.
Yeah, so you just know.
Infiltrators is the same as it always was, 9 inches away from any enemy models. But you can go... Oh, no, you have to be away from the enemy deployment zone as well. The Scout is exactly the same as it always was. Deep Strike, exactly the same as it has been for the last 2 editions.
Yes.
You have to come in 9 inches away. Leaders are different, but, we'll get to those later, I'm sure.
Leaders.
So that's 4 for your deployment abilities. Then you have Fights First as a universal special rule. That's in the fight phase. Fights Last is not in here.
Yeah.
So that would indicate to me that Fights Last as a rule
is gone.
Yeah.
It's quite big.
It's big news. It's big stuff. Fights Last being used by everybody all the time, everywhere, except it never really came off for me with the Be'lakor because he had to cast it on 8.
Yes, he had quite.
And then it was super Fights Last, despite what everyone told me.
Deadly Demise is one you'll see come up quite a lot.
Deadly Demise, that's the explodes result.
Yeah, so if your monster or your vehicle has Deadly Demise, and then it's a value, so it might be D3 or it might be 1, right? So what you do, you roll your dice on a roll of a 6. It goes.
Wasn't the Warlord Titan 3d6?
Yeah, the Warlord Titan was 3d6 like damage. So
it's always within 6 inches.
Yeah, so it's within 6 inches. You roll it. If you roll a 6, it explodes, and then everything within 6 inches will take whatever the D3, 1, or 3d6 in the case of a Warlord Titan mortal wounds.
Concealed Positions was the Space Marine Infiltrators version, but I think Scouts had a different one.
Yeah.
It was called slightly differently.
Scouts.
It might have been called Scouts. Or it might have also been called Concealed Positions. I can't remember. But, things like Nurglings, they had it. They didn't have Concealed Positions. It was called something else. It was called Being a Nurgling or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
Lone Operative Stealth, that's another 2. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... 6 for Firing Deck.
Firing Deck, yeah, that's another one. Firing Deck's quite cool because it means you transport, so you can fire some guns out of them with your infantry. Yeah.
6 universal special rules. Plus the 18, did I say, for videos? 18. 24 universal special rules. And in the universal special rules for guns, more of them will come up than others. And some of them are very self-explanatory, like anti-vehicle. What does it do? Oh, it's really good at monsters.
Yeah, it's really nice, and you'll see on your indexes on your data cards that you do get you will get multiple abilities on one weapon. So as I said, like if you had anti-vehicle 2+ and devastating wounds, it means on your wound roll into a vehicle of a 2 or greater, you do devastating wounds. It counts as a 6.
Rainbow has something he wants to. Is that Rainbow?
Hey, Josh. Yeah, Rainbow. Hey, Josh and Adam. Can we expect a battle report from you both eventually? Adam and Leo from Fest. Ah, yes. Well, you can.
Yes.
We've just done one. This is what if you missed chat earlier, we did a battle report. We did a battle.
Yeah.
It will come out in due course.
Yeah, because we were going to make a top 10 changes in 10th edition video that came out before we did a battle, and then I said that's a silly idea because we might be like, this is a pointless rule and no one cares about
this
it.
Is rubbish.
And then it might come up in the battle.
This is not rubbish.
It's actually quite important.
Yeah.
So yes, universal special rules.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yes, so actually it's handy we talked about stuff on data sheets and the unit ability and things like that, because that's one I think is worth focusing on again, sort of in the early stages, getting everything together, is how the data sheets have actually changed. Because it's a simple one, but it's still an important one. Now obviously we've all seen that we've moved to this system of, getting rid of a lot of these notes down the side, but there are two key changes on the data sheet, certainly that I picked up, and obviously you can add some more. Which is that your ballistic skill or your weapon skill is now no longer like a value of the model. It's shown against the weapon itself. So when you're looking for that, you'll sort of have to look in where the actual weapon lines are written, and they will have different ballistic skills, weapon skills, etc. This is really good because it means that you can have nominally the same weapon on different models, reflecting maybe whether they're better at something or worse at something, which is quite cool. It means there's a bit more variation there. And the other big one as well, I would say, as well as the change to ballistic skill and weapon skill, is the addition of the OC value, which is a big one. So gone are the days, along with your troops, your fast attack, your elites going as categories going in the bin.
Secured.
Objective bloody secured. Yes, objective secured is no longer a thing. It's now all dependent on your objective control or OC value, and all of your data sheets will have an OC value and a number on them. And what you do, it's really quite simple. You add up the OC value, when you're trying to score objectives, you add up the OC value of all of your models that are within range of the objective, and you add up the OC value of your opponent's models, and whoever has the higher value, they control the objective. It's as simple as that, right? It makes it no more do you have to worry about like, oh, I've got one guy with objectives secured, therefore I get it, despite the fact you've got like a great unclean one sat there.
Yeah.
Right, for example, which is just insane, right? If there's just some random guardsman, but he's got OC, or he's got objective secured, sorry.
And I think that ties into universal special rules, especially when it comes to weapons, because rightly or wrongly, there has been some discourse on the internet about how units have gotten fundamentally worse when they've previewed some guns.
Yeah.
Because a gun that previously hit on 3+ now hits on 4+, which is not taking into account the keyword on it, which is heavy.
Heavy, yeah.
And heavy means if you stand still, you get +1 to hit. So it's actually... there's a benefit to staying still rather than a punishment for moving.
Yeah.
Now, there are some things that it is still a punishment for moving. So you might be like ballistic skill 5, which isn't great. Anything that's 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Generally, the range is 4 and 3 is good. 5 and 6. 5 is bad, 6 is awful. Unless you're orcs. I'm imagining most things in orcs will be ballistic skill 6.
5 or 6, yeah.
5 or 6, but they'll have sustained hits like 12.
Yeah, they'll throw so many dice and stuff, it'll be fine.
Something like that. Like a boy's shooter.
Daka.
I would expect... well, it would replace Daka, right?
Well, I think Chad said earlier, when we talked about sustained hits for the explosion, or Chad or somebody in chat said, oh, universal Daka, right? Which it kind of is, right? It is universal Daka. But yeah.
But that's... if you're hoping to have caught GW out... with based on your own understanding of your own army at the moment. For example, like this thing here.
What are you pointing at? Oh yes,
the
Hecaton land fortress.
Because it currently hits on a 3, doesn't it?
It does hit on a 3,
and it's
it hits on a 2 because you give it +1.
It's super rail cannon.
Yes,
would hit on a 3. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know if it's been previewed.
It has.
Has it? So does it hit on a 4?
It does hit on a 4. Yeah.
But because it's heavy, if it stands still,
get +1.
It'll get a +1.
I think it's a 4. It's 4 or 5. Because I know that again, you were right. That was something like in the what are they called, Leagues of Votan, like on the subreddit. There was a lot of saltiness potentially about, why are we going to BS4? We're supposed to be a shooting army, because they went to 4 actually across the board. And I would say that has been, it's linked to data sheets, so we can talk about it here. That has been a change across a lot of the previews that we've seen already. Is I would say ballistic skill 4 is becoming much more of a standard than ballistic skill 3 used to be.
Yeah, ballistic skill 4 is coming a lot more, but especially for, because it seems weird, right? And I get it a little bit, because the heavy keyword is supposed to benefit both vehicles. It's mainly looking after vehicles, because vehicles don't really want to stand still, like battle tanks and stuff like that. You want to move them around.
Yeah.
Moving around, having all of your battle tanks stay still at the back of the
in a
battlefield
line, yeah.
is not how they're supposed to interact with the game. So you're supposed to move them around. The heavy keyword is supposed to interact across men, normal men, innocent men, normal vehicles, innocent vehicles, and vehicles. So the heavy keyword should affect things like knights. It should also affect a land raider. It should also affect a gladiator. It should also affect your Boggo heavy bolter man in a tactical squad.
Yes.
So the weapon itself will hit at a 4+. But if the tactical squad stands still, it'll hit on a 3+. So it's giving you a benefit to staying still rather than a punishment for moving.
Yeah.
Is how to read it. So it's a success for doing something rather than a punishment for not. Although some might argue that if it's a heavy weapon, it needs to stand still, so it is a punishment for moving. But that doesn't matter.
Yeah. But you know what? The game, they said they were trying to make the game less lethal, and we have seen, you'll see in the weapon profiles again on a lot of the index cards, that one thing that we found quite interesting is you saw a lot of like obviously AP has come down, really, it seems to have across the board. And the interaction with stuff like the benefit of cover we discussed earlier means that there's a lot less lethality in a lot of the game. But often you will have like quite high damage weapons as well, that, you know, if you do get a shot through, if it does go through, you will hurt your opponent. That's certainly what we found, I think. So it is a real trade-off, and I think everybody who's saying, oh yeah, you know, this is worse or this is terrible, we haven't seen points. We don't know what the game's going to look like as a whole. We haven't seen all of the details yet across all of the armies, so we don't know. I don't think you can say objectively really any unit and go, that's worse, because what you're looking at is you're measuring it by the standards of 9th.
Yeah.
Which, especially now having played it, it's a different game. It really is. It's an evolution, it's familiar, but it is a different game.
Yeah. To answer your question, Rainbow.
Yes.
I haven't got my glasses on. Because when I wear my glasses, it struggles to focus on my face for some reason. Because Adam's here. And my camera prefers him to me.
The powder brush tool.
The factions I'm most looking forward to are obviously demons.
The Shadow of Chaos.
I'm also really looking forward to using Adeptus Titanicus. Because I have a Warhound Titan.
Yeah, you do, don't you?
And I'm really hoping he comes in at under 2,000 points.
Yeah, well.
He does now. He's 2,000 points now.
There's your
in
army.
9th edition. It's your entire army. But the Warhound Titan in 9th edition, you could not bring it to a standard 9th edition tournament game. Because if I rocked up to any of our games that we've had with the Warhound Titan, you would have tabled me in turn 1.
Probably, yes.
Because I just doesn't have the gun or the or the resiliency to stand up, which is bizarre.
Because it's a Titan.
Because it's a Titan. Can you imagine doing your Thousand Sons versus a Warhound Titan in 9th edition? I think it would only take you one turn.
Just endless psychic mortal wounds.
I'm also looking for. On a serious note, demons, yes. Blood angels. I'm looking forward to them.
Yeah.
I want to see what my shiny golden boys will do.
Custodes, yes.
I say shiny golden boys. I don't have sanguinary guard.
I have
Death
Sanguinary
Company.
Guard. Yeah.
I would like to see what my Death Company do.
I'll see what my Sanguinary Guard do.
I have 45 Death Company.
So they've already said that there's going to be specific detachments that come out, right, for the armies. I really hope there's like a Death Company one for
That would be nice.
Blood Angels. That'd be cool.
But then it would make Death Company battle line.
Ooh. But yeah, we'll have to see. What armies am I looking forward to using? Oh, I don't know. All of them. Which I know is a bit of a cop-out answer, but I'm really interested. Again, once we have the details of everything, I'm just really interested to see in how they play. I tell you what, Thousand Sons is a good one actually. I'm really interested to see how Thousand Sons get on, because obviously the other big change, and we can talk about this in more detail, is that, you know, we don't. It's the changes to phases. We don't have a psychic phase anymore, right? Psychic phase is gone. So the thing that the Thousand Sons did, and the Grey Knights, to be fair, did, the phase in which they were most active is gone. It doesn't exist. The way it works now is your psychic powers, if they're offensive witchfire powers, they are ranged weapons effectively, and others are just abilities that they have on their datasheet that they can affect people with.
Yeah.
Which again you'll see in our game. We had some that were kind of abilities that affected either your opponent or your own army, which is really cool. So yeah, 1,000 Suns for me, Rainbow. I think I'll be interested to see what they do. Also, Ahriman looks like a beast.
You have enough factions that you're just excited to see whichever one wins the first GT, right?
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
And then the next
It'll be the one I don't have.
What don't you have?
Space Wolves.
I don't think you're in any danger of Space Wolves.
What else don't I have? I don't really have a guard army properly at the moment. I don't really have a proper orcs army. Like I have a lot of stuff that's like 1,000 points. I don't have like two. I only have a smaller number of 2,000 points armies for playing. But again, the good thing is,
so 1,000 Suns, Tyranids, Sisters of Battle, Space Marines.
Yep, Space Marines. Chaos, I've got about 1,000. Eldar, I've got about 1,000. Dark Eldar, I've got about 1,000.
Leagues of Votan, you've got 2,000.
Leagues of Votan, I've got 2,000. Yeah. And then
World Eaters, you've got nearly 2,000.
World Eaters, I've got nearly 2,000. Yeah, thanks, Angron. So yeah, World Eaters actually is another good one. I really want to see what World Eaters do because they're just cool and they're easy to play because you just run at people and hit them with a chain axe.
I considered TK Suns, but I have already tortured myself with World Eaters, so currently slogging through them and their trim.
So when we went to Warhammer Fest, where are your trophies, by the way? Are they downstairs?
My trophies?
Yeah,
they're downstairs.
Fest. Yeah, well, second and third in the doubles, we did well. But the
I was looking over here. It looked like you pointed to yourself for second.
No, I went second and third.
No, I know you did, but I was like, don't rewrite history.
Second and third. No, second and third.
Don't make me grab this one and just be
excuse me, I was there when you won that, and was very proud. You deserved that thoroughly for fun and fluff. But yeah, no, when we were getting ready to go to Warhammer Fest, I was painting up World Eaters and yeah, doing the trim on them. Rainbow, I feel ya. It's a lot of trim. It just seems to take ages. I don't know how you do it.
I give up sleep.
I can't do that. I have to be up for things during the day.
You know, I've had a rough one when I do a live stream and it's just grey under here.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want more trim, then get this man to paint more 1,000 Suns and Chaos. Generally.
I will not do 1,000 Suns.
You won't do them.
No. I will not do anything where I've painted the faction leader of it for someone else.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not ever going to do a Death Guard army.
Makes sense.
I'm never going to do a 1,000 Suns army.
You don't want to paint Mortarion again.
No, do not want to paint Mortarion again, and I do not want to paint Magnus again.
Yeah.
I've done it once, don't need to do it again.
Magnus is very cool. We need to bring back Tale of Many Warhipsters soon, says Mr.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. We need to do that. I said I'd do AOS, so I'll be doing some AOS this year for that.
Cool, well, we'll launch that this week then.
Oh, no. Well, no. Well, please don't do this week, because I'm in the middle of moving house. So all
my
models are in boxes anyway.
You're in the middle of moving house and 10th edition here,
Yeah.
is it? And it's at that point that I choose to force you to do Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, exactly.
I am a benevolent ruler.
Well, look, should we say one of the other big changes we should talk about that we saw in our game come up as well, in terms of things that have changed with phases, is the morale phase is no longer a thing, and that's good because now we've got Battle Shock. Battle Shock happens in your command phase.
Copying AOS again.
Copying AOS again, yeah. So Battle Shock's really cool. So the way Battle Shock works is you roll 2 dice at the point in your command phase when it's it. If a unit is below half strength, and for single model units with multiple wounds, that means below half wounds, basically, on them. You roll your Battle Shock test on 2 dice, and what you want to do is get equal to or greater than their leadership value. So it's not like it's basically a flip reverse of how it used to work, where you wanted to roll under the number of models killed, basically, and then add it to the leadership. This time you now want to roll equal to or over. So conversely, having a lower leadership now is better. So Space Marines are like pretty good across the board in the previews we've seen. They look like they're reasonable.
Yeah.
But others have higher leadership, so it's more difficult to pass.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And what happens is if you fail a Battle Shock test, that model, that unit, whatever has failed, Can't have stratagems used on it. Its OC value, its objective control value, goes to 0, so it loses all of that. And if it has to fall, this is a bit more niche, but if it has to fall back out of combat, it has to take what's called a desperate escape test, which means you roll a dice, and on a 1 or a 2, the model is destroyed.
Slain. Yeah.
Slain. Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about Battleshock the last couple of days. And I think it's a really nice change to the generic playing of the game.
Yeah.
It also sucks ass for anybody who wanted to do bravery bombs.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't do anything.
No.
I mean, it impacts the game.
Oh, turning off OC is big though. I would say turning off objective control. Out of the the 3 things it does, I would say in order the most important are turning off objective control.
Yeah.
Turning off stratagems is also quite important because
Yeah.
people do want to use stratagems, although there are less of them now on their units. The falling back and desperate breakout test is very niche. When it comes up, it could be quite powerful, but it's like, it's a relatively limited number of situations that comes up in. But turning off OC,
Yeah.
I think that's big, especially for stuff like, they've already shown us in the previews that Chaos Knights, for example, which is another army rainbow I'm very excited for because I think Chaos Knights are dead cool, and I love my bunch of Chaos Knights, and I love their leadership shenanigans in 9th edition. Their ability to turn off your OC is big because they're like, single model knight units that have OC value, whatever they have, wander onto an objective, mess with your battle shock, you fail,
So the thing with me is, the thing about it, right, is...
Are you thinking about demons here?
No, I'm thinking about bravery bombs in general.
Right.
So, like, a bravery bomb in AOS, when it was really, really fun,
Yeah.
was battle shock test was the same. You rolled 1 dice and you added the amount of casualties to it.
Yeah.
And then anything that was over the top of your leadership score, you lost models by that amount. So being able to key in your army to bravery bomb would be that you would hit something with a bravery concoction and kill 2 or 3 of them, and then in fear 7 or 8 of them would run away. Which is really cool and really thematic and awesome. It doesn't happen so much now because there's less kind of opportunities for big bravery bombs because Games Workshop never seems to really get battle shock bravery morale quite right.
Yeah.
I think these rules are better for the health of the game in general because battle shock should theoretically affect more games, and tactically there will be different moments and things that will happen. It's just a shame that someone like the Night Lords, if they mean that you auto fail, if something like has abilities that mean that unit counts as battle shocked, then it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think for some things, again, we'll come in now. Chaos Knights, Chaos Demons, Night Lords, things like that. It's not great.
No, but...
Because you're relying on your opponent rolling badly.
Yeah, that's true. I think it depends when we see the OC values across the game, right, of various models. I think is going to be important. I think it's important we're going to see abilities that affect it. So we know the Chaos Knights do some stuff. We don't know what other stuff will do. I think...
if you have a leadership characteristic
that
is better than 7, battle shock will generally not affect you.
7 or lower, and Grimgor has made the comment having a good leadership score is bad, seems counterintuitive. Having a high leadership score is bad, that's counterintuitive. Good now means lower, but I get your point.
So if more stuff than not
has
a leadership of 8, then battle shock will be really good in this edition. If lots of stuff has a leadership characteristic of 6, 5 worst. 5, 6, or 7. The average roll on 2d6 is 7.
I mean, I think based on the previews we've seen, the best we've seen is 5, which is on Trajan, Valoris, and Custodians.
And that's a good change because battle shock and morale things will affect single unit single model units.
Yeah.
So like vehicles and monsters and stuff, they can be affected by it. That's great. The downside for me is that you can't really tech into it. So like, even with the Tyranids preview, being able to force a battle shock test on your entire opponent, you playing against something like Custodes,
it's not going to be a big deal.
It's not going to do anything.
But then again, to think about that further, right? Custodes previously under the old morale system just couldn't fail.
Yeah.
Like they were leadership 10. They were basically immune to. There were armies like Dark Angels that were just immune to morale tests and stuff like that. Yeah. Now that can't happen. Like, I know it's unlikely, but a Custodian player could roll a 3. They could roll a 2 and a 1. Right? Yeah. They could do it. So they could fail.
No, it can happen.
So there is a thing of failure. I think the other thing it gets rid of. Well, the other thing is there are abilities, and we've seen it with the Chaos Knights preview. There are abilities which will force that, even if you're on I'm a 7+ leadership, right? So again, statistically, you're more likely to get it than not. Oh well, okay, I'm making you -1 or -2 to that, right? We've seen some abilities that do that. So now I'm forcing you onto an 8. So now you're more likely to fail than pass. So you can see that actually those effects coming into play. Yeah. And the other thing it stops, like I'll happily trade that out for stopping this thing where you go, I failed my morale test, I lose, let's say, I don't know, 6 out of the unit, right? And there's 1 left. Oh, this one little goober is going to go hide behind a wall, sit on an objective, and do nothing for the rest of the game.
Yeah, because he always has to roll battle shock tests.
Yeah, and he won't. Yeah, he now always has to roll battle shock tests. It's not like before where he just passes morale because there's only one of him and none.
Well, you pass it once and then you don't have to morale test again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No. It is a good change. It is a good change.
Yeah.
The jury for me is still out on how effective it will be in the edition.
Yeah, agreed.
Because every edition, 8th, 9th, AOS 2, AOS 3, they fiddle with the morale, battle shock, bravery, whatever you want to call it, system. And you always go, like, cast your mind back, chat, and you, 3 years ago, if I told you about attrition tests, you were like, that's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
Did it matter?
No.
No. Because the 2 main armies in the box were Space Marines.
Yeah, Necrons.
Can't be modified.
And Necrons.
Necrons with leadership 10.
Yeah.
So it didn't do anything. It was entirely pointless. And then you had factions come out that were immune, like Dark Angels. Other factions that can re-roll it.
Yeah.
Other factions that only one can ever run away.
Yep. Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So what I'm just slightly mindful of with Battle Shock is, as long as it doesn't become there's no faction that then drops that goes, hey,
we're immune. Yeah.
You can re-roll battle shock tests for free.
Yeah.
Because you guys are super brave.
You're super brave. Yeah.
As soon as that happens, for me the system goes out the window.
So I think, like, just looking at the previews and looking at the stuff we've seen in the core rulebook, and from our experience of just playing around with it, it seems to me that the one of the key things Games Workshop, we can include this as one of our big changes, it's more of a general one, but one of the things that Games Workshop has done with 10th edition is they don't want a system where thing is immune to rule, right? The joke is, and they shall know no rules, right? Is the joke, right, about Space Marines with they shall know no rules. Yeah, exactly. Then they seem to be getting rid of that, because again, like, I think the Custodians are a great example of this, because they are leadership, as I say, if they're leadership 5, right, almost certainly they will pass battle shock, right? But they could fail.
Yeah.
It's not like before where you had a leadership value that was so high, a model, generally unit sizes that were so small. It didn't matter. It was irrelevant. They might as well have not put a leadership value on a Custodes datasheet, because it just didn't matter to them. Or Dark Angels with was it Grim Resolve that did that?
Yeah.
And again in the preview still does something for battle shock.
Well, Deathwing were immune.
Deathwing were immune. Yeah.
Let's face it, when was the last time you saw a Greenwing army on the table?
Yeah, I know, which makes me sad, because the Greenwing are cool. I think Dark Angels look good in green, rather. I mean, Deathwing are cool, but, especially with these new Terminators.
Rez, Adam can't answer you because he hasn't used any yet.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yes, let's move on.
The only other thing I would say about Battle Shock is I wish it gave you -1 to it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Because the stratagems thing for me is just like, so every army gets 1 CP per turn. So unless you're stacking up It's going to be really annoying for you if you have a stratagem that costs 3 CP and you've saved up for 3 rounds and then you get battle shocked. Yeah, that's going to be annoying. Are you going to do that? No.
No.
Because you're going to want to use your stratagems.
There we go. There's our next thing to move on to, which is the core stratagems and the changes to CP generation.
You get 1 CP per command phase.
You get 1 CP per command phase.
Unless you have a rule that lets you add another one, but only a maximum of another one.
Yeah, maximum another one.
So you can't take 4 Marnius Calgars.
Yeah.
Or 15 Robute Gillimans.
And we've
give yourself 16, mostly because of Epic Hero.
Yeah.
But
meet my army of the Gillimans.
Even if you have, let's say, let's talk about Grey Knights. Let's say Caldor Drago and Brother Captain Stern both give you an extra command point. We don't know this for a fact, but let's say they both do it. You can only use one of those. You could use both those abilities if you want, but you'll only generate a further one per battle per command phase. So stratagems become really important. There's a lot of core book stratagems.
Well, should we talk about core book stratagems?
Let's not go into them in too much detail because it is 25 past 5.
Oh, yes, okay. But basically, there are core book stratagems. There are the usual suspects in there that you would expect to see. Overwatch.
Yep.
What else is there? I'm trying to think of command reroll. Is a stratagem. Interrupt is a stratagem. It's not called interrupt, but you know what I mean, to interrupt combat.
The thing I would say about stratagems is if yours aren't any good or you don't like the ones in your index, you can get by perfectly well with the ones in the core book.
Yeah. And actually, that's a good point about stratagems generally. And one thing we found, I think, during our game was that actually the selection of stratagems obviously has shrunk again to the same thing that's happened to enhancements or whatever, all of this stuff. It's shrunk to a smaller list. I think we get 6 each, and they've said it will be an average of 6 for all the armies that they're going to release. I used a couple. I think you used 1 maybe.
I didn't use any.
Did you not use any? You used a core one, didn't you?
I used core ones.
Yeah, you used core ones.
But I didn't get a chance to use any of mine because I only generate 1 command point.
Yeah, you only generate 1 command point. Yeah. So you have to be a lot more strategic about it as well.
Yeah.
A lot of them are 1 CP. That was one thing I found. There was a lot more 1 CP ones than there are 2 CP ones, I think.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can get by without them pretty much. Because, again, the data sheets, a lot of the units' abilities that you might have previously seen as like powers or stratagems have now ended up getting integrated into their data sheet. So again, it goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning about army building, about making sure you've got the right unit to do the right thing and kind of building those powerful abilities and combos, which is going to be a lot more interesting than just going, I've got 3 units of Storm Shield Terminators with Cyclone Missile Launchers.
Well, you can't ever do that.
What? Well,
you can't put Cyclone Missile Launchers on an Assault Marines Terminator squad.
You could if you... No, Deathwing, you could.
Yeah, only 1 though.
Yeah, only 1. But
and they can't take a Storm Shield.
No, they can't. But you still got a lot of output. Yeah, it's a powerful system. I like President Prime's comment. Oh no, all my Gillimans.
I have 2 Gillimans.
It's like a sitcom. That all my Gillimans.
Yes. Go on then. What's next?
Well, we could do. We could talk about the sort of movement, the changes to movement, which are quite cool in terms of like fly, things like that from the core rulebook.
Is it a big change?
Not really, but
it's not a top
we're doing top
change,
10.
Really.
Well, I mean, I think we're.
It's a top change for 8th edition.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's just been codified.
I just thought it's impactful because it's one of the things that constantly gets debated. Is the reason I put it in there. It's one of these ones that always comes up.
You always measure distances, whether it's horizontally, vertically, or diagonally.
Yeah.
Always. And if you can fly in the charge phase and in the movement phase. There's no longer a delineation between that. So you can fly over enemy units. You can fly over terrain. You can just if you've got a 12-inch move, you just fly 12. If you got a 12-inch move and you are at the bottom of a tall tower, you don't move 1 inch. You fly up 12 inches.
Yeah.
But you still ignore terrain for the purposes of
that's
thing.
That's it.
In order to scale terrain, normally you have to walk up to the wall and then go up it. You can't finish a move clinging to a wall.
Like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Marine.
But otherwise, the fly, whilst it's important that it's written down properly as it is.
Trigonometry, yes.
Yeah. You don't have to... Yeah, you literally just get your tape measure out and just fly directly from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Which is good. And then you can do the same thing in the charge phase.
Yes.
So again, a flying unit doesn't have to fly 12 inches towards the opponent and then scuttle across the ground for the last 6 inches of the charge.
And it also means you can't pull off those slightly nonsensical things where people were like, well, I'm this far away on the long side of the triangle if I measure it, but I'm less than 9 inches away when I drop down on the horizontal. They've made it very clear that the horizontal 9 for like deep strike and stuff is how you measure it. So in fact, for a fly unit, that would be bad because you'll be on the long side, which means your charge will be longer.
Yeah.
So don't do that. Don't do that sort of nonsense.
Yes.
So yeah, that's quite an important one. I think we already touched on one of the others, which was basically going to be fight phase and sort of the distance. We talked about the fights first. It's worth talking about the bait because it came up in our game. The bases touching engagement range point.
Yeah, I mean, so
it's quite an impactful change. Again, it's rules.
I don't think it's a change so much. I think what it is how it was always intended.
Yeah. But they didn't rule it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you charge, you have to get within an inch.
Yeah.
If you can get to base, you have to get to base.
You have to base people.
There's no, I'll be 1 inch away and then I can pile in 3 inches around this model so that I can then consolidate into the Lehman Russ. You can do that.
Yeah.
But if you can get to base, you have to. And when you pile in and consolidate and all, well, pile in specifically, you have to pile in towards the closest model that you can do. So you can't pile in to, so if you've got sort of like, if there's your enemy unit here, and you've got a guys like this guy has to pile in to there to get as close as he can to the opponent. He can't pile in like this to something else because this one's closer, right?
Yeah, so he has to get into base.
And if you're touching bases, once you're touching bases, you can't then move.
Yeah.
So that is it's how it was always kind of intended, I think.
But it's codified.
But it is codified.
Yeah. And it's
and when you consolidate, you have to consolidate towards the closest objective.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, which again comes up in our game, which is quite cool. The other thing that's worth saying while you're picking up the core rules is that the whole like fights within an inch of an inch thing is gone. So linked to what Josh has just said.
Base within a base.
Yeah, to take your example of
who said you could touch my paints?
I'm touching your paints because this is good. This is good. We're doing live examples.
Curses my dice, and now he's cursing my paints. Just trying to ruin my.
I didn't touch your dice. I did offer to let you use mine, and you still rolled a 1 with them. So this is your enemy. This is your model, the pink one that's fighting it in base to base. This guy over here, even if it's a 40 mil base, as long as he or she are base to base with this one, he can fight as well. So it's nice and simple. No more like trying to measure distances and being like, oh, because I'm a 25 mil base or a 28 mil base, I get like more units in to be able to fight. It's just base of a base now. So they are, as long as they're touching. This is quite interesting because obviously it means that you'll have to perhaps maneuver your models a little bit to make sure they're all base to base contacting each other. But yeah, it's a good change. I think it's a good codification of how it works.
We actually got consolidation slightly wrong.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
A mistake.
You can only consolidate towards, if everything's dead,
Yep.
you have to go towards the closest objective,
Yep.
which is correct. But you can only consolidate if you can get within range of the objective.
Oh.
Otherwise, you just stand there,
Okay.
twirling your knives.
Twirling your knives around.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That changes the result of our game entirely.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, yeah.
That one consolidate, I think I did the whole time.
Yep. Don't worry, I'll point it out for you in the battle report.
There'll be like a big red circle, like VAR. We'll go and have a look at this.
VAR points deducted.
Yeah.
There are over 115 cases.
I've breached the consolidation fair play rules.
The Warhipster financial
CPS.
fair play. Yeah.
Yeah. I like Mr. Watkin and Reza both say trigonometry fun and Pythagoras baby. Yeah. Get your triangles out. Learn some maths.
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know if I mean that pretty much goes through all of our changes. I think that actually does cover all the big ones.
Yeah.
Is there any others you want to flag? Anything you want to highlight?
The one in the fight phase that I think is more important.
Yes.
Is that the fight phase is now split into 2 phases.
Yeah.
And it's split into 2 phases. There's the fights first phase, and there's the existing combats phase. And in both of those, your opponent always has priority.
Yes.
Which is important.
Yes, very important.
Because if you're charging stuff that has a fights first ability on its data sheet, your opponent will choose the first strike. So what happens here is you can't. Let's say a Keeper of Secrets has fight first, which you would expect it to, but I don't think it does. I can't remember.
I look like a crab, but I was doing the snapping pose.
You can't charge Terminators in, bonk the Keeper of Secrets on the head,
Yeah.
and then go through the rest of your charges. I would still have priority.
Yeah.
So I as the opponent, as your opponent, have priority in both phases. So I pick where the first combat goes. Because when you charge, you now gain fights first. You don't have the benefits of charging, of being a charging model.
Yeah.
Which would be two separate rules.
Yes.
It's now consolidated, pardon the pun,
into
one rule, which is fights first. You then have a phase of fight first, and then you have your existing combat.
Yeah, existing combat.
In which your opponent always has the priority and chooses which one to go first.
Yeah.
Do you plan on doing any alternate Tyrannid scheme tutorials as you sometimes do with the Leviathan box set? Sorry if this has already been asked. I might do mine like Zerg from StarCraft 2. That's a great idea, Aidan. Yes, I'm intending to do all 6 of the other Hive fleets with Termagants. Hydra, Gorgon, Behemoth, Jormungandr, Kraken.
Yep. Come on. Anyone in chat know the last one? I know Mr. Gotkin's probably furiously typing it. Come on. Titan, Ancient Greece.
Did I say Behemoth?
Yes. Father of Zeus.
Kronos.
There we go. He's got it.
Rich and I got it exactly the same time. The famous last one.
So
I am intending to do all 6 of those on a term again. And because of the Tyranids, you literally just blow the scheme up on the rest of the set.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, I am intending to do that. There is 16 different units in Leviathan, which means there's going to be 16 videos, plus the 6 other Hive fleets. Means there'll be 22 painting videos. Plus this live stream, plus the video yesterday, plus our battle report, 25
all the
videos.
content.
All about Leviathan.
Fine people.
All
about Leviathan.
So yeah, and just kind of as a point of order, the painting stuff will start coming out when the box goes on pre-order. So it's not like, haha, I'm painting everything now. I don't want that to be the case. But yeah, once stuff goes on pre-order, that'll be when the painting content starts.
I think Aiden wants his Zerg.
Zerg scheme.
What colour are Zergs? I don't even know. This is where we do. This has been live googling.
Zerg.
Oh, they're like a sort of
Yellow
browny
and
yellow.
green.
Oh, they're yellow and green. Yeah.
Looks a bit like Tyranid, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does look a bit like a Tyranids.
Yeah, there you go. Yellow and sort of greeny brown.
That looks familiar.
I wonder where you got yours from. There you go.
Scary things, yeah.
Captain Mannering says Posh Joe. That's me, apparently, on Mondays.
Yeah, I lack the equipment to join in. Well, there's 3-man anyway, but I lack the equipment to join in on DMZ.
Yeah.
My PS4 is not capable.
Starship Troopers scheme. Isn't that just green?
The Starship Troopers ones were like the bugs are sort of black and like a yellowy colour with a kind of not like an animal camo pattern along them.
So I always picture them as looking
with like browny bits, I think.
I always think of them as looking like sort of like praying mantis type things.
Yeah.
I was thinking of them as being green.
Well, there were those flying ones. I think they were green, but the scuttly ones were yellow and browny coloured things, blacky yellow. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, for the Starship Troopers ones. So yeah, loads of content coming from
I would do Starship Troopers Tyranids if I had Starship Troopers Astra Militarum, but I don't, and therefore I won't. I only cross the streams when it comes to the cultural zeitgeist, when it comes to telecommunication sponsorship deals.
Yeah, I was going to say, which is hovering over your shoulder.
My Leagues of Votan sponsored by EE.
Led by High Carl Bacon.
Yeah. The future's bright, the future's orange.
But yeah, look, I mean, look, we had fun. All I would say is my first impression of 10th edition. We had fun, I think, playing it. It was interesting. It definitely is not. Anybody who is doing the line like, oh, the game's going to be too simple. It isn't. right? It still requires, in a good way, it still requires some thought and some strategy in how to actually do things. It is a changed game.
Yeah.
It is different. It is cleaner in a lot of areas, but it takes getting used to.
I think the game, the difficulty in it is in building your list. Yeah. I don't think the game itself is particularly hard. Like I said, once you've done 5, maybe 10, it'll be practiced and you'll know what the things do. You might not necessarily know what your unit cards are. Because those are changing, right? And that's an interesting one because whilst it's not always changing, Space Marines have always had a 3+ save. They've always hit on 3s. They've always had 1 attack,
toughness
1 wound. In the last 2 editions, they went up to 2 attacks, 2 wounds. They've always had those things. And I think for people who are fans of other factions, there's things that are like, well, they've always had that. So like demons have always had a 5+ invulnerable save. I don't know if that's going to be the case going forward, because that changed to the demon saves, which was better.
Yes,
for
them.
It
was absolutely better.
But who knows what it's going to be like for demons going forward? Because if they go back to 5+ invulnerables from range, it's going to be a bad time out for against demons. Aidan, thank you very much for the 5. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you. Thanks for the tutorials. Thank you for your support. You're a very kind sir.
Yeah, man. No.
I want to do an Ultralisk conversion. I think you should do one so I can copy you.
I assume an Ultralisk is a type of Zerg of some sort.
I'm guessing so.
Yeah, an Ultralisk.
I'm really bad at my StarCraft 2. But it is Space Marines versus Tyranids, pretty much.
Yeah, aren't there Eldari ones as well? There's like Space Elvi ones, aren't there?
I haven't played StarCraft 2 in a very, very, very long time. And my memory is not what it once was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the complexity of the game comes in the list building, and I think it's going to be really good for people who want to see lots and lots of different armies.
Yeah. There's going to be loads of different ways to play each army. That's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, there'll be tons of different ways.
I don't think you'll see on that. I don't think you'll end up seeing. And this is why, like when we were talking earlier about tournaments, why it will be really interesting to see if there is a tournament in the next couple of months as to what lists end up doing. I mean, who knows? It doesn't so much about what doing well, but what people take. Because I just don't think you'll see people doing what, oh, I'm running Dark Angels, okay, I know you're going to have X number of Deathwing Terminators. Oh, I'm running, Astra Militarum, I know you're going to have X number of Kazakin, right? Because that became a thing in 9th, of just being able to, if you tell me your army, I know enough about the game that I can probably guess what's in it. And even then, even if you've only got one of that unit, if you went to me, I'm playing Astra Militarum, I go, right, you've got Kazakin, you've got Barbican's Key on the Kazakin Sergeant, you'll have Lord Solar Leonta sitting there, you'll probably have a Rogel Dawn, and then you'll probably have the Gatekeeper on your Lehman Russ.
Yeah. Right,
I instantly know, without knowing the army that well, I know instantly what I'm going to be up against. I don't think you're going to see that in 10th.
Yeah.
Certainly not at the beginning, certainly during Index Hammer.
Yeah.
Which
and
is
I think what's important is you don't know what you're going to face.
Yeah.
So, in the instance of playing Tyranids, you will require anti-monster. So if you know you're going to be playing Tyranids, then you can tailor your list to bring loads of anti-monster and really, really upset your opponent. If you are not knowing what you're going to be fighting, so when you go to a tournament, you need to plan for anti-monster, anti-psyker, because you wouldn't want to turn up to... And psych is a bit of a weird one, right? Because if I key my army to be anti-infantry...
Yeah.
And I fight Thousand Suns, it's all infantry anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm fine. But if let's say the Thousand Suns get a new battle line vehicle psychic unit, and that is the one that gets used on everything, then you will need some anti-vehicle to deal with it. So you need to build your army in such a way, especially if you don't know what you're going to be facing,
just deal with it.
To be able to deal with all comers, because what we have experienced today is there is no longer a cap on toughness.
No.
But there is a cap. There's not really a cap on strength of guns either. But there is definitely a hard cap on strength of guns.
It seems to be, yeah.
Yeah, so I think a las cannon They're strength 9, aren't they?
Yeah.
Or strength 10, I think, at a push.
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
ballistas
on the
one, I think
ballistas,
it's
yeah.
strength 10. I can't remember. That doesn't help you when stuff's got toughness 11, 12, 13, 14. So
Stuff
that's
is
great
hard.
when you're toughness 10 and below.
Yeah.
It's not great when you're trying to... Because what you want to be firing the las cannon at is the big monster.
Yeah.
And if it's toughness 12, you're on 5s and 6s.
Yeah. I also think it encourages, which I really like, it encourages a variety of different weapon types throughout.
Yep.
You don't just end up spamming. Like, the classic example is, plasma solves everything. In 9th edition, plasma solved everything. Plasma was good into tough stuff, it was good into infantry, and you could sort of use stratagems and re-rolls and stuff like that to just make it... and it doesn't matter to me, I'm not going to die if I roll 1s, I'm just going to re-roll everything, so I'll be fine. Yeah. And this edition is just not going to have that. I think you are going to be encouraged to have, I might have some plasma units, I might have some anti-vehicle unit, might have an anti-monster unit, right? As you say, anti-psyker is probably more niche, but you have a selection across your army of things that can do different jobs, so that and that in itself makes for a better game, because you and your opponent have variety, which means you then, you say the thinking about it is in the list build stage, but it does feed through into the game, because then your target priority becomes even more important. Because if I've got a gun that's anti-vehicle 2+, and I'm putting it into, Sergeant Steve and his 4 mates sitting on an objective,
Yeah. But it does
why
also...
would I do that?
Yeah, and it also does mean that I think 9th edition made a decent pass at trying to make everything viable.
Yeah.
Except it really didn't.
No.
Because there was clear choices.
Yeah.
And then the meta clearly defined what was the key choice. Now, if a all infantry army becomes the top list, the next time that list goes to a tournament, it'll go 1 and 5.
Because of anti-infantry.
Because everybody will take anti-infantry guns.
Yeah.
And squash that list. So you can't build your army to just...
Sorry, I've just seen Jim Rich's comment. Yeah, Sergeant Steve.
So you can't just, like I said, you can't just follow what the meta is going, whatever people are going to try and make it. There obviously will be things that are better, but assault marines, let's say, as an example, might be really bad.
Yeah.
Except they won't be. They'll be really bad against your friend who plays a Lehman Russ
Spam.
Yeah.
Like Chad in the chat.
Yeah. Or your assault marines might, who knows what they do, but your assault marines might be really good. They might have anti-infantry.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, they might be really bad against the Lehman Russ, but they'll be really good at all the infantry.
Yeah.
Excuse me, all the infantry. And it's not just that it's against infantry, and most people would think of like guardsmen and normal space marines and stuff. It's like, no, anything walking on 2 legs is infantry. So anything that's anti-infantry is good against...
Big variety of stuff,
Yeah, like it's good against infantry characters. It's good against Blightlord Terminators. It's good against Scarab Occult Terminators. It's good against something else that's tough and walking on 2 legs.
Yeah.
It would be good against... I don't know if they will have it, but like Crisis. What if they've got the infantry?
Yeah, if Crisis have infantry, yeah.
So now your assault marines have got a way of killing Crisis marines. Crisis marines?
Crisis
suits.
They're marines having a crisis because their data sheet's changed.
Yeah, so they now potentially have a place in your army.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know yet. But, you know, I think the days of throwaway action monkeys
are gone. Yeah.
And, table quarter holding people.
You're telling me that my what was it, my 8th edition, was it 8th or early 9th? No, it must have been early 8th. It must have been 8th with the what was it in the Sisters Army, the Crusaders.
Yeah.
The unit of 2 Crusaders that you would just bimble around the board, and their only job was to get into table quarters, occasionally sit on an objective so your battle systems can do other things. That was it. They had no value whatsoever. They were 25 points of complete guff. But everybody had them. Everybody had them. I had them. Everybody else had them. We played Sisters, and we all had an equivalent of that as well. It was a very common thing.
Are actions still in the game? No, I don't think they are. I haven't seen any.
No, not that we've seen.
There's some like some like objectives and like gambits and things that sort of sound
actions,
like actions because they require you to fulfill steps, but no, I don't think there is. I'm going to raise banners.
No.
What you do get is you get things like abilities on data sheets, which will sort of act like an action, but it's just an ability that they have. So like the Bellacor's Shadow of the Warp.
Yes, yeah.
So he can just create, and
like an area.
there's a CP as well, right? To create an objective, be part of the Shadow of the Warp type thing. So yeah, no, I don't think there is a. You're no longer going to retrieve Nachman data.
We've retrieved all the data, guys. All the data has been retrieved. We've read it. I don't know what was in it, but we don't need it anymore.
There's no more rod.
There's no more rod, no more rund. Because it became retrieve Nachman and then retrieve.
Can't that work sometimes? Basically, because your opponent isn't used to playing those units and therefore forgets what to do. Yeah, absolutely. That can work. That can work that way sometimes.
That's why, to your point about, I think you need 3, 4, 5 games right with your army. I mean, it was the same in all the previous editions, but I think particularly in this one because of things like abilities on data sheets. And also the fact of adding leaders is going to, and that's to Josh's point about the list building phase, that's going to be another big one is like, what characters do I attach to what units? Even if they don't buff the unit itself, right? Because as we said, not all of them do buff the unit. But, what do I attach to what in order to do whatever it is I want to achieve? Right? That's going to be a key thing to think about. So I think, you will forget things. I mean, we forgot things in the game, for sure. There was stuff where we look back on a data, we were like, oh, it does this,
Yeah, so Chad's saying that's some math hammer for you. Meta equals infantry, anti-meta equals anti-infantry, so anti-meta counter all tanks. I'm going places.
Yeah, you're going to be going to a place with anti-vehicle. That's where you're going.
And that's the question: is why? How does the all infantry army become the meta? Is it because it's full of guns that are anti-vehicle?
Yes.
Because if they're anti-vehicle, great, your infantry are safe.
Yeah.
Because what we're looking at is what the edition is trying to fix is the prevalence of, and I always refer to it as strength 6 minus 2 damage 2 weaponry, where you're able to like something like is it Drukhari blasters?
Blasters, yeah,
that are like that.
Yes.
So where everything has. So like a unit of 5, is it 5 Cabalites?
You can have one blaster, I think.
Per 5.
Per 5, yeah.
So you take 2 blasters and
the big laser, the dark light cannon thing, whatever it's called.
Because the leader of it has a blaster as well.
Yeah.
So it's and like autocannon spam, if that's ever a thing, or like
it was for a bit.
Well, very very rarely.
Yeah, rarely.
Not in, but like mortar spam and stuff like that.
Mortar spam.
What it's trying to do is it's trying to get rid of those. Lots of sort of... It's not going to be a 6 to wound vehicles, but the weight of dice will mean it's good at vehicles. It's also going to be 3s to wound infantry, and the weight of dice means it will definitely do the job. So strength 6 minus 2 damage 2 weaponry, or strength 7 minus 2 damage 2 weaponry, where it's like an autocannon as an example of that, because that's what that is. That's strength 7 minus 1 damage 2. But so being able to put autocannons everywhere,
delightful.
Yeah, or like chain cannons in Havocs.
Wasn't there that eBay army we saw that was like all autocannons all the time?
Yeah, there was. Yeah,
we saw a guard army. It was just all autocannons.
Yeah,
they were thinking ahead.
They were thinking ahead. Yeah, but so like being able to spam that gun because it does just as fine a job against armor as it does against infantry, as it does against vehicles, as it does against heavy infantry, as it does against light vehicles. That those are now out the window.
Yeah.
Because that gun, which used to wound the Rhino, like an autocannon used to wound a Rhino on a 4, now wounds it on a 5 and 6.
Yeah. Richie's right. No more one profile to rule them all. Totally the same plan.
Yeah.
The other thing is to add on to that as another layer is obviously different because like the ballistic skill now is part of the weapon profile as we said earlier, right? Or even on like melee weapons. Weapons on different units even though they are nominally the same, can do different things. Yeah. So you can have examples where like the bolt gun of presumably of a character might be better than the bolt gun of a random space marine, and it might have special abilities that allow it to do certain things, right? So again, that's about like how do I build my army? What do I include? What do I want to eliminate? What am I going to be up against? So I just think it's going to be a much more of a movable feast than it was before.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Which is why I think like tactical armies will flourish.
Yeah, if you want to be flexible.
So I think Tau will do very well.
Yeah.
Grey Knights I think will do very well.
Grey Knights have got movement on their side as well.
Space Marines, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
Well, see, with Space Marines, it's an interesting one, right? Because we don't know what all of the... We do know roughly what the chapters do. Like the Astartes, everything else, that lot.
Yeah.
The Blood Angels, Death Watch. We know roughly sort of what they do, but we don't know what their characters and what their things do. And
we know some of them, like the Lion that they've previewed, but like we don't know. We don't know like
we don't know what Azrael does.
No, or Dante or something like that.
Or Dante or Lamartes.
Astaroth. We're just naming Blood Angels
Or
characters
Logan
now.
Grimnar.
Yeah.
Bjorn the Fell-Handed. We don't know what
Njal-
Captain Artemis does.
Njal
in
Stormcrawler.
Death Watch. We don't know what Njal does.
We don't know what Darnath Lysander does, who's the ultimate character in the game.
Yeah, we don't know what he does. And we also don't know what's coming in the future either.
No.
So, I think the Astartes will... I mean, Astartes are always easy to learn, hard to master.
Suriade, I think, has nailed it, really.
Space Marine, yeah, they do suffer for
the
the exact thing. But yeah, I think, like I said, Tau will do very well. Grey Knights, I think, will do very well. Thousand Sons, I think, will do very well. Drakari, I think, are going to do very well as well.
Good, yeah.
Eldari.
I Hope Sisters are alright. Miracle Dice are back.
They're going to be rubbish.
In my hands, yes.
Demons, I don't know.
Yeah, Demons is going to be a tough one.
Demons, Demons are a combat army, and that's kind of the end of the story.
Yeah.
So, how do you get there? And are they very good in combat? We don't know.
Yeah. Knights, Chaos Knights, going to be interesting as well.
Knights will be an interesting one.
Because again, if you've got a lot of anti-vehicle and you go into a Knights army, the Knights are going to go, oh, that's not good.
Yeah. So it's things where you've got a lot of flexibility. I think will do quite well, particularly in a tournament scene.
Yeah.
Things that tech really hard into one thing
probably won't do that well.
Probably won't do so well unless the efficiency in other areas is so good. But I don't think it will be.
I mean, you say Sarah's made a comment. Eldar seems strongest, dependent on points cost. I mean, yeah, dependent on points cost is key. I'm not sure Eldar do seem the strongest.
I think Admech seem the strongest to me.
What? Because of their bombardment thing?
Yeah, the bombardment thing's horrid.
No, the bombardment thing is horrid because it does force battle shock as well. But it's the first round. You're probably not that fussed about.
Isn't it all the time?
No, so it's first battle round. They do the bombardment, and then after that, you just take mortal wounds.
Yeah, there's mortal wounds every turn.
Yeah, but it's one on the unit.
But that's enough.
Yeah, I know.
That's enough.
It's very powerful. It's very powerful. I'm not arguing it's not very powerful, but I don't think it's necessarily the disaster zone that some people think it might be.
The reason I don't think it's a disaster zone. The reason I think it's very powerful is in an edition that's less killy. You
just
only need
doing more passive mortal wounds.
Doing one extra wound to pretty much everything on the battlefield means you're going to push stuff over the edge into battle shock.
Yeah.
And it happens before the battle shock phase.
It does happen before the battle shock phase, yeah.
So anything that's down to 5 models out of 10
it takes more wound, it falls over.
now has to take battle shock. What it can do is potentially swing entire sways and change your entire plan as your opponent, being like, well, I'm going to fall them back and then I'm going to shoot them with that. And it's like, you take one mortal wound, now it has to take a battle shock test.
Yeah, definitely. And I think so I think points are going to be key, like across the whole thing. I mean, we talk about this when the battle report comes out. You'll see it. We talk about it in there that we don't know what things are going to look like. We don't know if units are going to be a lot more expensive or cheaper for each army because we're playing it off of current points, which are designed for the current edition and are built a certain way, right? We know that they are. So yeah, the points is going to be key, and I think that is going to I reckon that will change opinions. So I think there's a lot of people who are saying, this army's really good, or this army's really terrible, based on the 3 bits of it that we've seen in the previews. And actually, it's when you get the points that then you'll go, oh, actually, the thing I thought was really terrible, they're quite cheap, etc., etc. We don't know, but that'll be key. That'll be key. It's stating the obvious, but it'll be key.
Because if Great Unclean Ones cost the root...
30 points.
Come on, 8 points.
8 points, sorry. 8 points per Great Unclean One.
If they, the rumoured, the rumoured costs of things like, what was it, Keeper's Secret, 6 points each.
Oh, yeah.
because of the Slaanesha's number. Gretling's are actually 7.
7, yeah. It's corn stuff that's expensive.
stuff
It's
was
8.
Well, Zinch is
Oh, Zinch is 9. Yeah. Well,
9 points per model for
pay,
everything in the Zinch range.
Don't pay for a Lord of Change at 9 points. That's far too expensive.
If that was the case, you'd be able to take 200 models in a Zinch army, and you still have 200 points left over.
I mean, it obviously would break the 3 datasheet rule. But you had 200 Lords. Would that even fit on the board with their base size? I don't think it would.
No, you wouldn't be able to get it on. But 500 points of it would go into reserve.
Okay, well,
I was thinking more problem is the 200 pink horrors.
Pink horrors that then split. That
then split into blue.
So actually, you need to bring a transit van filled with horrors. You just open it up and it spills onto the board.
Well, it would be 200 pinks, 400 blues, and 400 brims. Because a base is 1 pair of brims.
Oh, a base is 1 pair of brims. Yeah. So it would be what, 200, 400, 400, so it'd be 1,000. 1,000 individual little dudes.
Yeah.
1,000 horrors. Also the name of my
biography.
1,000
models in 2,000 point army.
Yeah.
Choke on that, everyone else.
Yeah, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens with points. I think that's going to be key.
Points
win prizes.
Because the thing we don't know at all about points, and this is something I'm very intrigued about, is whether we're paying points for per model, per war gear item, or are we paying for war gear, and are we paying per unit?
Yeah.
So is it like, if you want to take 20 termagants, is it 100 points for 10 and 200 points for 20, and there is no in between?
Yeah.
Or is it each one costs 11.73 points and then...
Oh, bonjour. In Paris?
Bonjour.
Is it bonsoir over there yet? No, it's not quite. It's 6 o'clock now. So bonsoir.
So yes, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Points are very and points will change things.
Mr. Gotkin, who was in chat earlier, I don't know if he's still there. He had some interesting thoughts on this, because I think we've actually seen almost clues to both approaches, so we don't know the answer, right? Because one of the reasons people said, oh, it's going to be like Sigmar and there will be unit points, was because one of the data sheets they previewed, I can't remember which one it was, they changed it from being like 10 like 9 plus whatever to up to 20, so you could in theory take 15 models in a unit, to being no, you need to take 10 or you take 20, right? That was one they previewed. But then they also showed us, I think it was the Chaos Legionnaires, that the unit was like one sort of sergeant plus 9 plus not plus 5 to 4 to 9. So you could take an 8-man unit of 7 Legionnaires and a Sarge basically in the same unit. So we don't know. That could go either way. Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Well, it's 6 o'clock. Well, it's 2 minutes to 6.
2 minutes to 6.
So we're probably going to conclude there.
Yes.
But thank you very much for hanging out. Thank you very much for hanging out with us this afternoon.
Yes.
We've had a good time.
Yes.
We hope that was helpful.
Yeah.
And this will be available on demand, of course. So you can go back and watch this 2-hour discussion
of
10th. And like I said, there's like 25 videos on the way, so don't worry.
Yeah, there's plenty more where this came from.
There's a lot more stuff on the way.
Although less of me, which is probably a good thing. More of him doing amazing painting and stuff. You look at the models you have to paint.
People might prefer you.
The camera does, clearly.
Camera does, yeah. Just doesn't want to focus on me. Captain Mannerings, thank you for being awesome.
Oh,
well, thank you for being awesome.
Legend.
That's very, very
Don't
kind
tell
of you,
him,
sir.
Pike. Captain Mannerings.
Yes. I will return live on Wednesday, where
I'll be in
and
chat,
think about this, guys. Think about your answer to this question. But on Wednesday, I shall be going live in the evening, as I normally do, about 8 o'clock. And I will be painting your choice of Blood Angels, Infernus Marines, or Termagants. Think about... Don't give me your answer now, but whichever one you want, think about it, and I'll be doing it live for you.
Yes.
Think about it.
Choose wisely.
We'll be back on Wednesday, and then there'll be tons and tons of videos, as I say, coming very, very, very soon.
Yes.
Very soon indeed.
You're going to love it.
And for those of you who care more about Age of Sigmar, Seraphon, there is going to be more Seraphon videos. It's just 40k.
Oh, Chad Street.
Chad with his bony matter.
Bony matter.
I love your bony matter.
Option 3, Emperor's Children. No, not for now.
Just paint Emperor's
Just
Children.
Emperor's Children.
The real question is there any art in the Leviathan book of stuff we have not seen yet? As in of models? As in like product photography?
Kataro's joined us just as we're finishing up. Hi, Kataro.
He has a tendency of doing that 2 minutes before
You're
the end.
gonna have to go back and watch us ramble about 10th mate because we're just checking the rulebook for a question.
I haven't, as far as I can see in here, I haven't seen anything that we haven't had previewed.
Nah.
That's pretty cool.
Oh,
I think that's an old bit.
That is pretty cool.
I think that's an old bit of art though.
The art quality generally is just continuously improved. That was from the Custodies book, that last one.
That's from Demon's book.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the quality of the books continues to be high.
Is that new?
No, that's got to be like Gathering Storm era, hasn't it? I don't know.
But I haven't seen any hidden miniatures inside this book.
The big Roman headpiece.
Because quite often it's broken down into Black Templars, as an example. Then
I'll be like a
this is where you get the high quality artwork. So you get the get what the Combat Patrol, for example, will look like, which is the Combat Patrol itself that you can buy.
Yes.
And then there's another section of some more highly painted. I mean, it's every single thing in here is. But then you get things like this, stuff like that. But in terms of art pieces,
no,
I don't know all the art. But no, I haven't seen any special sneak preview models in there. But then I'm blind as a bat, so who knows? But yes, thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you all very, very soon in the next one on Wednesday. Thank you very much for the super chats. Captain Mandarings, Chad Stewart, and Aidan Farmer. Very, very kind of you. And I will see you all very, very soon.
See you later, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Wave now, because we need to wait for it to cancel out properly. Because it takes a few seconds before we start swearing at each other.
Bye,
See what I mean? There we go.
You.